He spotted a workman hard at work installing a speed bump. Peering down from his high horse, the Duke said, "What the F are you doing now?"
For years, Prince Andrew tried to guard that polished royal image he wore like armour, but cameras always catch the real story when the mask slips.
The scandal that's rocked the royal family to its core, Prince Andrew's relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Even the best written statements can't hide the tone, the stare, or the attitude frozen forever in crisp video. From tense confrontations at public events to shocking flashes of arrogance caught in clear HD, a pattern has slowly built itself piece by piece. Every clip adds one more layer to behaviour the palace prayed would stay tucked out of sight. But now these 15 unforgettable moments are rising back up, louder and more revealing than ever before. So what was Andrew really doing when he believed nobody was watching? Number 15. Royal wrath on display. This summer, Windsor Great Park wasn't just a peaceful retreat. It became the backdrop of one of Andrew's most talked about outbursts. The place is normally calm, but suddenly it turned into a stage with all eyes locked on him. Dozens of bright yellow and black speed bumps had been placed across the massive 5,000-acre estate, including one set just steps from the front drive of Andrew's home at Royal Lodge. They were supposed to slow cars and keep visitors safe, but instead they lit a spark of irritation he couldn't hide. Andrew set out on his horse for what should have been a smooth, private ride. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. But the second he spotted a worker installing one of the new bumps, the whole mood flipped in an instant. From up on his horse, towering over the man, Andrew snapped, his voice cutting through the quiet like a whip. "What the F are you doing?" Witnesses said the worker practically froze, stunned by the sudden blast of frustration and authority. People who've seen Andrew in public weren't shocked. Many remembered moments where charm faded and the blunt side of his personality took over. But watching him get that heated over something as ordinary as a speed bump gave the public a rare look at his raw, unfiltered self. Uneasy glances were exchanged, the internet lit up, and even the peaceful park felt the shift in the air. So if something this small could trigger such a reaction, what deeper cracks were ready to show themselves next? Stay locked in. Number 14. Andrew's shortcut fury. Andrew's irritation with rules didn't stop at speed bumps. No, this next moment took things up another level. Back in 2016 at Windsor Great Park, his impatience clashed head-on with the sensor-controlled gates guarding the park's paths. These gates were there to keep traffic organised, but they ended up becoming the latest targets of his frustration. Instead of taking the 1-mile detour to reach Royal Lodge, Andrew allegedly drove his Range Rover straight through them on a Sunday night, leaving the gates badly damaged. The story spread fast, stirring up chatter across the UK. Buckingham Palace and the Crown Estate, which oversee the huge park, refused to comment, leaving the public hanging and campaigners fired up. By midweek, Graham Smith, the head of Republic, formally asked Thames Valley Police to investigate, saying Andrew should be treated like any other citizen. But police said they didn't have enough first-hand detail to move forward, adding even more tension to the whole mess. Witnesses painted the scene clearly. A park worker said the sensors weren't working right, and Andrew, irritated and done waiting, decided to push straight through instead of taking the long route. It wasn't just impatience. It looked like a bold move that ignored the rules everyone else had to follow. Critics wondered, is there a different playbook for those with power? Or is Andrew just willing to show his temper louder than most people ever would? And if he's this fired up over a detour, what was really driving that impulse? Because the next moment doesn't just show anger, there's something much deeper underneath. Keep watching. Number 13. Tempers and tantrums. Andrew's frustration didn't end with gates or speed bumps. This next blow-up happened right at his home. A few years back, he got into a heated confrontation with his gardener over a small mistake involving some newly planted saplings. One October day, as staff worked on the young trees outside his 31-room, £30 million home on the Queen's Windsor estate, Andrew burst out of the mansion shouting, pointing and demanding, "What have you done?" Witnesses said he was going too far, scolding staff who hadn't meant any harm, leaving the gardener shaken. This happened while Andrew was dealing with major legal pressure. He had just been served documents connected to long-running civil allegations tied to people linked to his past social circle. Even though Andrew has always denied wrongdoing and denied knowing the individual who accused him, the weight of the situation was heavy on him during that period. Insiders said stress might explain why he was tense, but it didn't justify snapping at staff just doing their jobs. Observers remembered other moments where he acted entitled, like the time he told a maid to sprint up the stairs to close curtains while he stayed seated, not even glancing up. The gardener, once considered a trusted member of the late Queen's team, eventually stopped working at Royal Lodge, though she continued in her job elsewhere. These incidents showed a pattern. Andrew didn't hold back when he was upset, no matter how small the issue seemed. But if something as simple as a curtain could set him off, what hidden pressure point pushed him even further? And why does no one dare name it yet? Stay glued. Number 12. Curtains, commands, and royal temper. Prince Andrew's temper didn't just flare at public events, it spilled into the smallest corners of Royal Lodge. His former maid, Charlotte Briggs, revealed that even the most ordinary chores could trigger explosive anger from the Duke, showing just how high-strung and volatile he could be. At only 21, Charlotte was ordered to run up 4 flights of stairs to close heavy curtains, while Andrew sat just yards away, apparently unable or unwilling to handle the task himself. When a tiny gap was left between the drapes, Andrew reportedly erupted, shouting, "Can't you effing do anything right?" His words cut deep, leaving Charlotte in tears and shocked by his sheer intensity. Charlotte told The Sun that he threw his weight around, turning a simple chore into a public humiliation. She noted that while he had once fought for his country in the Falklands, at home he seemed powerless to handle small domestic actions, yet quick to condemn anyone attempting them. And this incident wasn't an isolated one. It was part of a pattern. Staff at Royal Lodge often had to tiptoe around a tense atmosphere, aware that Andrew's temper could flare at any second. Observers pointed out that these outbursts revealed more than simple frustration. They reflected deep entitlement, the belief that rules applied to everyone but him. Charlotte summed it up perfectly, utterly ridiculous, yet telling. Andrew definitely put a downer on anyone he felt was beneath him, from ramming gates in his Range Rover to berating gardeners over saplings and now humiliating staff over curtains. Andrew's consistent rudeness marked both his public and private life. Those around him were constantly on edge, unsure when the next storm would hit. And just when you think his temper might be contained, even the tiniest mistake could ignite chaos. What shocking outburst would come next? Stay with us. Number 11. Flying off the handle. Andrew's volatility went far beyond curt commands or tantrums over curtains. Those closest to him described a man who could erupt at the slightest inconvenience, his anger sharp, public, and often humiliating. Security officers and staff recalled instances where a minor delay, perhaps a pause to approve guests or even a brief processing hold, would trigger Andrew's fury. From his car, he reportedly shouted down at officers, belittling them and hurling insults like effing buffoons when they failed to meet his exacting standards. Staff quickly realized there was zero room for error. Any misstep, however small, risked unleashing a royal storm. Protection officers, maids and servants tasked with his comfort often felt trapped, and repeated complaints about his behavior went largely ignored. Yet the palace's centuries-old hierarchy left many too fearful to escalate issues. Unlike a modern workplace where verbal abuse would face consequences, Andrew's position as a favoured son of the Queen insulated him from accountability. Those on the receiving end described the experience as deeply unsettling, walking on eggshells at every turn. The mix of authority, entitlement, and unrestrained anger created an environment where even minor errors became reasons for public reprimand. From ramming gates to shouting at staff over tiny delays, Andrew's pattern of impatience, rudeness, and humiliation left a lasting mark on anyone in his orbit. If this glimpse of his fury unsettled you, imagine what darker, more audacious acts of power and entitlement could follow. Number 10. Power, privilege, and controversy. Andrew's public role stretched far beyond Royal Lodge, reaching into high-stakes international trade. In 2001, he was appointed Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, a diplomatic role many in the UK, including Parliament members, felt he was ill-suited for. He became the figurehead for the UK Trade and Investment Department. Andrew was expected to promote British interests abroad, but his actions quickly drew criticism. particularly for involvement in arms sales to foreign governments. For years, he publicly endorsed the sale of weapons to regimes considered authoritarian, controversial, and politically sensitive. His role blurred the lines between ceremonial duty and real-world influence, raising questions about ethics versus protocol. Critics argued that while the deals were lucrative for the government, Andrews' personal involvement placed him in ethically questionable territory, as these weapons sometimes ended up in hands linked to human rights abuses. Andrews' public controversies mirrored his private life, a mix of impatience, entitlement, and intimidation. Whether berating gardeners over saplings, shouting at staff over curtains, or lashing out at gate officers, he showed a temperament combining authority with abrasiveness from royal lodge to international boardrooms. His actions, both personal and professional, painted a portrait of a man unafraid to assert power, leaving others unsettled and questioning the boundaries between privilege, responsibility, and ethical conduct. Could these carefully hidden alliances reveal shocking truths about power and privilege, or is there a scandal waiting to shatter everything? Number 9. Controversial appointments and questionable connections. Andrews' public profile has long been wrapped in controversy, stretching from Royal Lodge behaviour to his international dealings. In 2013, he was elected to the Royal Society, one of the UK's oldest scientific organisations, despite having no formal scientific background like his father and brothers. Educated at Gordonstoun in Scotland and holding A-levels in history, English and economics, his selection raised eyebrows and fueled further debate about royal influence and privilege, offered little to qualify him for membership. He never attended university. Instead, joining the Royal Navy, his appointment provoked outrage among members, some of whom attempted to challenge it. Yet he remained a fellow, highlighting how royal privilege can override expertise and merit. Andrews' 10-year role as a trade envoy further raised eyebrows during his tenure. He cultivated friendships with controversial international figures, including Ilham Aliyev, the long-standing president of Azerbaijan, internationally noted for corruption and human rights abuses. Andrews' royal status reportedly opened doors that other politicians could not access, allowing him frequent visits and apparently cordial relations despite widespread criticism. He was also linked to Libyan arms dealers and officials in the contentious Tunisian government during the 2011 revolution. Observers remain divided. Some suggest Andrew wielded influence beyond his title, while others argue he lacked understanding, treating official trips as luxurious holidays at taxpayer expense. Across these controversies, from ramming gates and berating staff to mishandling sensitive diplomatic relationships, a pattern emerges: impatience, entitlement, and a readiness to act without full comprehension, whether in domestic spaces or global corridors of power. Andrews' behaviour consistently drew attention, criticism, and occasional disbelief, leaving many to question the judgment and accountability of one of the Queen's most visible sons. But what hidden truths lie behind Andrews' private quirks, his peculiar collections, and his explosive outbursts? Could they expose a secret even palace walls cannot hide? Number 8. Massages, teddy bears, and royal outbursts. Prince Andrew's unpredictable temperament extended beyond gates, gardens, and staff orders, sometimes spilling into private and unusual situations that left people around him uneasy. A former household worker recalled that Andrew demanded strict, intrusive routines during personal appointments, creating uncomfortable situations for staff. She emphasized that his behavior was controlling, invasive, and intimidating, forcing staff to remain constantly vigilant to avoid triggering his anger. The account paints a vivid picture of a man used to asserting control, even in settings where others expected professionalism and respect. Andrew's eccentricities were not limited to these private routines. He amassed a vast collection of teddy bears and other stuffed animals, reportedly numbering in the hundreds. While such a hobby might seem harmless, his insistence on perfect order quickly became another avenue for verbal abuse. Maids and household staff recounted how he would scold them if his toys were not arranged precisely to his liking. The collection later gained further attention in 2024 when it was featured in a Netflix dramatization, highlighting how this obsession intertwined with his infamous BBC interview and public persona. Observers noted that these behaviours, ranging from intimidation over minor mistakes to obsessive control, followed a familiar pattern. Andrew consistently exerted authority without concern for the feelings or boundaries of those around him. From the palace grounds to private quarters, his actions repeatedly left staff distressed, unsettled, and wary of the Duke's unpredictable temper, creating an environment where entitlement and rudeness were constant companions. And as whispers of hidden friendships surfaced, speculation intensified. Could Prince Andrew's alliances be far more dangerous than anyone imagined? What will unfold next? Stay tuned. Number 7. Dangerous alliances. Prince Andrew's controversial behaviour extended far beyond eccentricities and rudeness toward staff. It reached into his personal associations, most notably his long-standing friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. By 2011, Andrew's ties to Epstein were making headlines. Epstein, already convicted of sex trafficking in 2008, continued illegal activities, yet Andrew remained closely linked to him, raising serious questions about judgment and responsibility. Observers compared Epstein to notorious predators, highlighting the scale of his offences. Yet Andrew continued to associate with him openly, attending social events and even one of Epstein's daughter's 18th birthday parties. For years, Andrew's loyalty, or perhaps recklessness, kept him entwined with Epstein, despite mounting legal pressure and decades of allegations. Lawyers have pursued the Duke of York for over 10 years in relation to these claims. Even as the scrutiny grew, Andrew maintained a public presence in Epstein's circle. This controversial friendship has been defended by Sarah Ferguson, who has continued to live alongside her ex-husband since 2014, insisting he should avoid visiting Epstein's private island. The Epstein connection fits a larger pattern of Andrew's behaviour, a man accustomed to privilege, repeatedly ignoring boundaries, disregarding consequences, and surrounding himself with people whose actions provoke public outrage. From verbal abuse towards staff and gardeners to questionable trade deals and international diplomacy, Andrew's alliances and actions demonstrate a consistent willingness to act according to his own interests, leaving others unsettled and often shocked at the audacity and rudeness of a royal unwilling, or perhaps unable, to temper his impulses. If the world thinks they've seen his limits, what startling truths await in the Pizza Express scandal, and who will expose them? Number 6. Pizza Express and the Newsnight interview. Prince Andrew's controversies didn't remain behind palace walls. They spilled into the public eye in ways that shocked and puzzled viewers worldwide. The Epstein scandal, which reached a fever pitch following Jeffrey Epstein's death in custody in 2019, forced Andrew into the spotlight. It culminated in his now infamous interview with Emily Maitlis for Newsnight, intended to set the record straight. Instead, the session highlighted a pattern of misjudgment, evasiveness, and audacity, leaving viewers incredulous. During the interview, Andrew faced direct questions regarding his relationship with Epstein and the claims made by Virginia Giuffre, who alleged she had been trafficked and abused. Giuffre had provided photographs showing Andrew with his arm around her waist as a teenager. In response, Andrew offered explanations many considered implausible. He claimed he could not have been present in London on the night in question because he was attending a child's birthday party at a Pizza Express in Woking. He also offered a bizarre medical defence, asserting that a condition prevented him from sweating, meant to explain why he appeared to perspire under the studio lights. This highly public incident mirrored Andrew's private behaviour patterns: entitlement, rudeness, and disregard for the perspective of others. Just as he had berated staff over curtains, gates, or teddy bears, he displayed a tendency to place himself above scrutiny, using excuses and deflections rather than accountability across his public and private life. From palace staff to international relations and televised interviews, Andrew repeatedly demonstrated stubbornness, abrasiveness, and audacity that left those around him unsettled and often astonished. But could these outbursts hint at a deeper sense of entitlement? And how far did Andrew's Alpine ambitions push royal privilege? Number 5. Alpine ambitions and royal privilege. Even beyond his public scandals and private outbursts, Prince Andrew's personal choices often highlighted a sense of entitlement and impracticality. In 2014, he became embroiled in controversy over a £13 million ski chalet in Switzerland, purchased jointly with his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Despite their divorce decades earlier, the extravagant property, comparable in price to luxury apartments in London's West End, immediately raised eyebrows. Observers noted that Andrew was expected to pay £5 million in cash, yet reports suggested he struggled to meet this obligation. The situation quickly became a spectacle, drawing attention from the media and royal watchers alike. The chalet's owner, persuaded that the Duke and Duchess were facing financial hardship, agreed to reduce the debt, only for Ferguson to purchase a £5 million property in Mayfair shortly afterward. Rumours circulated that Andrew even considered petitioning the Queen herself to settle the remaining chalet debt, a move that fortunately never materialised. This episode mirrors a recurring theme in Andrew's life: a reliance on status and privilege to navigate challenges, often disregarding the impact of his actions on others or the optics of extravagance. From berating staff over minor mistakes to navigating high-stakes international diplomacy with questionable judgment, his choices consistently raised eyebrows. Andrew repeatedly demonstrated impatience, entitlement, and a self-focused worldview. Even in leisure, whether arranging stuffed animals, attending high-profile parties, or purchasing luxury properties, he seemed to expect the world to accommodate his whims at all times. These choices paint a portrait of a royal whose sense of entitlement extends from the halls of power to private corners of domestic and international life, leaving a trail of astonished staff, observers, and the public in his wake. And how far did Andrew's recklessness reach, and which secrets of wealth and influence remain hidden? Number 4. Loans, luxury, and royal connections. Prince Andrew's network of influence has often blurred the lines between privilege and impropriety, extending even into the financial world for decades. Developer David Rowland, a close friend and ally, managed much of Andrew's wealth through Bank Haveland in Luxembourg, a private institution often associated with tax haven practices. With Andrew's unofficial endorsement, Rowland reportedly used his position to cultivate high-profile clients worldwide, leveraging the Duke's royal status and access as a trade representative to arrange meetings with diplomats, politicians, and business leaders. Andrew himself borrowed millions from Rowland's bank over the years, raising questions about the intertwining of royal privilege and financial advantage. Rowland, a significant donor to the Tory party and connected to influential figures, including relatives of Colonel Gaddafi, often drew scrutiny for these dealings, placing Andrew in a position where personal and professional networks overlapped in controversial ways. These financial entanglements echo a recurring theme in Andrew's life: a reliance on status, connections, and entitlement to navigate challenges, often with little regard for perception or propriety. From berating staff over minor errors to mishandling high-stakes diplomacy and now leveraging personal relationships for financial gain, Andrew consistently demonstrates impatience, self-interest, and disregard for boundaries. Even those tasked with protecting or advising him noted his tendency to act on impulse and expect the world to accommodate his whims, leaving staff, associates, and observers alike to navigate the fallout from his decisions across personal, professional, and international arenas. Andrew's pattern of behaviour paints a portrait of a royal whose entitlement and rudeness are as consistent as they are consequential. Just how deep does Andrew's hidden temper run, and which unsuspecting staff will face his next shocking outburst? Number 3. A pattern that reveals the man behind the title. As more stories surfaced, it became painfully clear that Prince Andrew's troubling behaviour stretched far beyond staff rooms, trade missions, and royal corridors. Even in everyday moments, his conduct exposed a man who seemed to enjoy belittling others, often with a childish grin. One former royal maid, Charlotte Briggs, recalled how Andrew once reacted when his 9-year-old Norfolk Terrier, Bendix, named after Sarah Ferguson's favourite chocolates, bit her leg. In 1996, the dog, startled by a vacuum cleaner, ripped her tights and left her bleeding badly enough that she needed a tetanus shot from the Duke's personal physician. But Andrew's reaction? Not concern, not an apology. According to Charlotte, he laughed. He found it amusing even as she limped, her leg turning purple. Charlotte wasn't the only one to witness this pattern. An acquaintance once told the Waikato Times that Andrew made an astonishingly inappropriate remark to a pregnant woman, then burst out laughing like a schoolboy, seemingly proud of his own crude humour. While the woman stood visibly shocked, these were not isolated slips of the tongue. They were part of a long, uncomfortable trail of disrespect. Even as his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, publicly defended him as the best man in the world, these accounts painted a far different picture: a royal who mocked pain, ignored boundaries, and seemed to take pleasure in the discomfort of people with far less power than he had. And it was in these small, telling moments that the true nature of his character became hardest to ignore. But could these shocking outbursts be just the beginning? What hidden truths about Andrew's temper and influence are still buried? Number 2. The trip that exposed a royal's true temper. By the time Prince Andrew travelled to the United States in 2011, his reputation for sharp words and sudden outbursts was already well known inside palace walls. But this trip, carried out while he was still serving as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, revealed a level of aggression that stunned even those accustomed to handling difficult dignitaries. His job was supposed to be diplomatic, meeting business leaders, easing conversations with government officials, and presenting Britain as a nation of professionalism and poise. Instead, staff who worked closest to him said the visit became a crash course in his impatience, entitlement, and open contempt for anyone he believed wasn't moving fast enough. Behind the polished handshakes in New York and Washington, embassy workers described a man who snapped over the smallest details: a slight scheduling change, a minor logistical issue. He lashed out when not receiving the level of service he felt he deserved, letting everyone in the room know it. Sources said this wasn't an occasional bad mood. It was his default way of speaking to people. To them, he acted less like a visiting representative and more like a storm moving through the building, leaving tension and embarrassment in his wake. When these stories leaked, the press didn't hold back, questioning how someone with such a harsh temperament could represent the UK abroad. The damage was impossible to ignore, adding yet another strike to the growing list of reasons why Prince Andrew kept being pushed out of roles he once believed were his by right. If these shocking leaks only scratch the surface, what other ruthless, petty behaviours has Prince Andrew hidden from the world? Number 1. The pattern of disrespect beneath the royal surface. What happened in the United States was not an isolated burst of bad temper. It was part of a much wider pattern, quietly whispered about for years inside royal households and staff quarters. Those closest to Prince Andrew often described the same experience. A man whose first instinct was not diplomacy, patience, or gratitude, but irritation, dismissal, and outright scorn behind the formal titles and polished suits. Many said he treated people around him as if they existed only to absorb his moods. Gardeners recalled moments when a simple, harmless detail, a few fallen leaves in the wrong spot, triggered a full stream of shouting. Drivers said a 5-minute delay, even in heavy traffic, could send him into a rage intense enough to silence an entire room. Unlike the occasional bad day anyone might have, staff claimed this behaviour was constant, almost predictable. One former helper explained it in a way that stayed with reporters for years. Working for him felt like being a human punching bag, absorbing every outburst while pretending nothing had happened. As these private stories slowly reached the outside world, they formed a chilling echo of what embassy teams had already experienced during his 2011 trip to the United States. The raised voice, the impatience, the sharp insults, all fed into a larger picture of a prince who struggled to show basic respect. And with every leak, every quiet confession, the questions inside the palace grew heavier, leaving officials to wonder how many more stories might still be waiting to surface. So, what do you think? If these disturbing whispers about Andrew's temper are only the beginning, what truths are still being hidden behind palace walls? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on royal revelations.